Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Two Girls, One Doc.
One Doc.
It's your girl, BD.
It's Foreign's the fiance.
And we are back. Today's episode is a documentary called Michelle Carter, Love, Text, and Death. It's on, what's it on again?
Discovery.
Yeah, Discovery ID.
Yeah, but you can find it on Sky as well. Sky was doing it for a bit, then it just went to Discovery. So, yeah, either and or.
Exactly. What are your thoughts on the documentary?
I've watched it before. So,
Okay.
yeah, I thought it'd be a good one for us to cover because there's a lot of subject area.
Mm-hmm.
But the documentary did what it had to do. I do feel like it was a bit skewed to one side, and we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, it was a good documentary. It was a bit unnecessary in the beginning. Like, there's a lot of faff and like waffle in the beginning. I think I would have preferred to just get to the case.
Get right into it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Again,
I don't think they need all of
on
that.
Like 1.8, so it was smooth.
Oh, I did 1.75.
Come
so
on,
I'm catching up.
1.75.
Catching up. So the documentary opens up in Fairhaven, Massachusetts. I don't think I said that properly, but oh well, that's how I'm going to say it the whole documentary, so just go with it. And they describe it as a seaside working class community. They talk very like, it's not Tawanda, Trina. They talk like Trina.
Yes, he's kind of like, are
House.
you Canadian? But like you're not Canadian.
Yeah, like House. Yeah. About.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's 10 p.m, July 12th, 2014. And Linroy is waiting for her 18-year-old son, Conrad, to come home. So he's said to her that he's going to see a friend and he'll be back home. And she was expecting him to be home by dinner time. He doesn't come home. So she's like, okay, cool, what's going on? So she goes to sleep around 11 and she wakes up and messages him in the middle of the night and is like, bro, like, where you at? And in the morning when he still isn't home, the family start calling friends to ask where he is. So they start calling some of his friends to find out if he's at theirs. And the friend who he said he's going to her house, I didn't write a lot of names. There were a lot of talking heads.
Her name's
here.
Ariana.
Yeah, I didn't jot her name down. No. But Ariana basically says, like, listen, he never came to my house. So she's thinking, there's something dodgy going on here. And at this stage, she calls the police because she just had mother's intuition, something bad had happened. So she discloses to the police officers that Conrad is depressed and she's really worried about his safety. She describes the car he's driving and, you know, where he said he would be. So now this is the bit I felt like was a bit of waffle. We go really deep, like 15-20 minutes into Conrad's like life story, which I feel like it's good to know about him, but the main focus of this documentary is the case. So let's just like have that flavor.
But then I feel like you don't want to forget the victim, because a lot of times in these kind of documentaries, like, the victim is lost in all of it, so it literally just becomes about the case. Whereas there would be no case if not for the victim, and the victim is not here. So like maybe let's learn a little bit about why the victim, like who the victim was before
then let's
they were
call it like let's do a documentary that's a bit more about him than the case. Because if you're a true crime fan, then you just want to get to the case, and you can still learn about him via the case. But
no, you can learn about what happened to him via the case, not about who he was.
No, because they still talk about who he was whilst they were discussing the case.
I think it's not so much that they were but they were showing who he was. I think that they just maybe spent a lot of time on it. Like, they could have, it was very repetitive and like, okay, cool, we've heard.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, fine. Not so much why are we talking about this guy?
No, not to say, why are we chatting about him? I'm just saying that it didn't need to be that much long. Yeah, when like we came to the case.
It was quite repetitive.
Yeah, like it was about 20 minutes.
Or it could have just been sprinkled in a bit more, like maybe every now and then, as opposed to like
this
one
like
segment.
when it was relevant. Yeah, literally. So we learned about his upbringing. His mum was a nurse. His dad was a tugboat captain, and they had 3 kids. Just a typical like family, nothing like unusual. The only like really cool thing, I guess, or noteworthy thing was that his granddad also owned a tugboat and passed it on to his dad, and then like Conrad wanted to go ahead and do that as well. So he was fine, like completely fine until his parents got divorced. And I think that kind of triggered a lot of like the mental health issues that I guess maybe were laying dormant until that happened. And so like they took him to see a therapist. He was working on his depression and social anxiety. So he's been working on his mental health, and in 2012, he attempts suicide. And then, his friend Ariana, so this is the friend who actually he was going to stay at her, he lied that he was going to stay at her house. She, finds out that he had attempted suicide and calls the police and his family, and they get him help. And after that, he was kind of on the mend. So fast forward to this day in 2014, his sister's actually saying that the last day she saw him, which was that July 12th, he woke up that day, he said, let's go for a walk with his mum and his sisters. They were on the beach. He was really happy. He seemed, just the normal Conrad. So his family and friends are out looking for him. The police are out looking for him, and they basically find him in his car. And it's clear, like, on scene that unfortunately he's passed away. But it was a bit weird because there was no trauma to his body. They couldn't see what had caused the death. Like, it wasn't clear. So upon looking at the scene and investigating, they found a gasoline-powered water pump. And basically, it was at that point they realised that he had died by suicide. So this documentary came out, I want to say it wasn't 2 years ago. Oh my gosh, was it 2 years ago? Yeah, 2020, shit. It came out 2 years ago, and unfortunately, a lot of the language is not, I don't want to say politically correct, but it's not, progressive. So they still use things like killed himself or died or committed suicide. And obviously now we know not to use language like that.
So I'm just putting better, so we do better.
Yeah, I'm putting that trigger warning in there because if you go back to watch the documentary, that's the kind of language they use. So basically, there's this law in Massachusetts where, like, any death, I think they call it unattended death, needs to be investigated. And I guess my assumption of that means, like, okay, if it's not like a murder where, like, you see the murder or something, or if there are no witnesses to the death, then you'll need to figure out what happened.
That makes me think then isn't just like all deaths must be investigated then, because attended or unattended.
No, because I guess like if you died in hospital of cancer, then they're not going to investigate that.
Obviously, but like if basically anything that could possibly be foul play.
Oh, of course, but I think unattended, quote unquote, is like
suicide.
Anything that falls in between, like suicide or like maybe. Yeah, exactly. If there's no witnesses, then that's what I think it means. Because obviously, if it's a homicide, it's a homicide. Like if somebody's
it's not
stabbed,
evident that like
Because
so
I think
if someone were to like
states
die in their sleep, they have to investigate it and basically conclude that someone died in their sleep and it was natural causes.
Exactly, rather than just like
say, oh, no autopsy, fine, RIP. Yeah,
exactly. Like, and I think like maybe if you like died by like hanging, for example, some states might just be like, oh, like they died by suicide, that's it. Whereas like in Massachusetts, no, you have to investigate, and which I think is good.
Google definition. So it says the phrase unattended death refers to a death in which the body is not found for days, weeks, or in some cases months.
That's not accurate because he died and was found the next day.
I'm gonna go with our definition.
Yeah.
Based on the context. So there you go.
Did you see that whole thing about the woman in London who had been dead for like 2 years or something, and then
where was it? It was like Peckham or somewhere.
Yeah, that is so crazy.
Yeah, but wouldn't the smell be like of concern?
Yeah, but that's why they reported.
That's how they found it. Right, found her. The person. Sorry.
But I find it so crazy that there are people in this, like, oh my gosh, there's this story of this girl who, I'll send it to you, and I've been looking, did we not discuss this documentary about the girl who, like, her family just thought that she had, like, disappeared and they'd never had for her, but really she had been, like, dead in her bedsit for, like, flipping 20 years or something?
No. Wait,
I
no,
will send it to you.
we have. She's black, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's a documentary on it. Because we've spoken about it before.
There's a movie. I think there's a movie.
It's a
or
movie,
something.
because we were looking for a documentary about it, but there wasn't. There was like a movie that they made. Yeah.
That's so crazy. If I don't speak to my sister in 1 hour, I'm already, like, calling the police.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, during the search of his car, they find Conrad's phone, which is really the only piece of evidence that they take in, because it's pretty much all that they can. And forensics start to look in it, because, again, remember, any unattended death, they investigate. So, again, like, if this was another state, they probably would have bagged up everything, given it to his parents and called it a day. But they actually go through his phone. And the really curious thing about Conrad's phone was that there was only one text message thread. Like, all other messages, which is flipping wild, especially for a kid at that age. Like, it's very, very strange.
And
like,
it's not like, there were other threads and, like, he just wasn't responding to them. There was none. Like, imagine you go on iMessage now and you delete every other text except for one. Like,
but
it's
that
weird.
one, yeah. And they see that this text message thread was between Conrad and somebody called Michelle. So, we see some on-screen. So they do this thing where they put some of the messages on the screen, so it looks like it's texting, kind of like what they do in Catfish. And we
that's
see
what they did in Tinder Swindler as well.
Yeah. So we see some of the messages, and it's clear that whoever this person knew Conrad, and they also knew that he was going to die by suicide, basically. So now we learn a bit about Michelle. She's from Plainville, which is an upper middle class part of Massachusetts. It's about an hour away. And the police are like, okay, how do Conrad and Michelle know each other? Like, they don't live near each other. They don't go to the same school. Like, they're from completely different worlds.
Like, where are the mutuals?
Literally, where are the mutuals? So, no one in Conrad's life knew about Michelle. So the police asking questions, they couldn't find anyone that knew anything about her. And neither did his family. However, during the course of the investigation, they find suicide notes from Conrad, and one of them was to Michelle. So the police themselves bring this the family themselves bring this up to the police and be like, listen, like, she got left this note, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So now we learn how Conrad and Michelle met. Their families were on holiday in Florida. And I always find these stories crazy. Like, you and somebody live in the exact same area or something like that. And then you have to go to a completely different place to meet. I find it crazy. So they met on holiday in Florida. And, like, her grandma introduced them to each other, I think. Did I misremember that?
I think it was just a family thing. And it's like, I think they're whoever that he was staying with in Florida also knew Michelle's family. Just kind of like, oh, you guys are like young kids. Like, you know, when you're like teenagers, like early teens, and whenever you go somewhere and there's someone of remotely a similar age and they try and be like, oh, you guys are friends. Like, you guys should be friends. Like,
yeah,
talk.
Be friends, yeah.
So it was that kind of vibe.
So, the two were introduced and they started a relationship via text, which is so, like, flipping millennial. Like, yeah. So this is kind of like a sidebar, but I thought it was really, like, well, not a sidebar, it's relevant, but it was also, like, sad to watch. But Conrad's family found a video of Conrad talking, and it's kind of like those, like, like, you know that video of Beyonce when she's, like, crying and she's like, oh, why did God give me this talent? Like,
no.
Have you not seen these videos that she always makes on her MacBook?
Yeah, when she talks about how much she loves the water and stuff.
Just create some weird
shit.
shit.
I used to make videos that actually have so many of them. When I was in uni, I used to make videos.
Yeah, but you're not talking about, like...
Yeah, it was just like a video diary. I would just talk about whatever, yeah. And I remember I used to make them with, like, people, like my friends. So I have so many of, like, me and Max just chatting shit. Or, like, and there's so, like, now they're from, like, circa 2014, yeah. So now when I look back at them, they are so funny. But his weren't funny. His were quite sad, actually, because he literally is, like, he literally is having, like, mental, like, turmoil, and he's like having pep talks with himself, and he's like, you know, come on, we can do this, like, you know, we just need to be better, and we can. So it's really sad looking back.
But I think the key thing about his videos was that he wanted to get better.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think like, he didn't want to be the way he was. He wanted to get better, which I think was a key thing. So a talking head tells us,
when detectives look at the text that Michelle sent to Conrad, the texts make it clear she had been texting him repeatedly before he killed himself to go ahead and do it. Don't back out. This is your time.
So basically, the text messages towards the end were just her, like, pushing Conrad to die by suicide. And it was crazy because she had asked him to delete the messages as well. So it's obvious that she knew what she was. I think it was a hint towards the fact that she probably knew that what she was doing wasn't right.
Yes, because why do you want there to be no truth? And that was the only one. And that's kind of like, to me, a nice big, like, fuck you, Michelle, from Connor. Like, one last fuck you, because, like, he deleted everything except for that.
Yeah.
Did you see the talking head that was like, you know, why didn't he delete? That she was the talking head that was saying, why didn't she delete the thread?
Yeah.
Don't you think she looks like Paula Abdul? She's wearing a pink blouse.
Now that you say it, yeah.
I thought that it was Paula Abdul when I saw the, like, coming up on, and I was like, what the fuck is Paula doing here? And then when she came, her name is Robi Ludwig, Robi. Go and Google her, I literally was like, what is Paula Abdul doing? Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I literally was like, what's she doing here?
Not the mighty. Robi.
Robi. And then Ludwig. Like, Ludwig.
Psychotherapy. Oh my god, yeah.
She does, isn't it?
Do you know what though? But because she's like more white, that's why I didn't see it immediately. But outside of
she's
that,
like a white Paula
really
Abdul.
Does.
No, but she looks like she's got something in her.
Very little.
Like she's not like English white or like American white.
Yeah.
She does give Paula Abdul, doesn't she? She does.
Yeah, she does. She does. 100%.
Well done, me. Sorry, as we were.
As we were. So, whilst Conrad was on his way to the destination where he was going to die by suicide, him and Michelle were on the phone, and from what police can gather, he was likely speaking to her until he passed. But obviously, they have no way of knowing what the two of them said to each other. Yeah. So the really weird thing is Michelle starts to, like, text Conrad's mum, and, like, it's all just stuff comforting her and, you know, telling her that things are going to be fine, that Conrad was, you know, that she did everything she could have done for Conrad. But obviously she never mentions these exchanges she had with Conrad before he passes.
To him, likely when he passed.
Literally when he passed, which is so strange.
It's some main character syndrome, man. It's like, how are you putting yourself in it? Like, how why are you in it? Like, literally, why are you all in it?
Literally, like, just walk away. You've done the damage, like, just walk away. You don't need to be calling people and chatting. So 2 months after his death, Michelle organises a baseball tournament in her hometown to raise money for a suicide prevention charity.
Which is not, it's like an hour from where he lives.
Literally, so it's none of his friends, none of his school, whatever. It's just her school and her people and, like, Conrad's family. It's weird as fuck.
So strange.
So the police set up this whole sting on that day because they want to make sure that the Michelle that he's been messaging is the same one from the...
Yeah, they want to confirm that it's her, yeah.
Exactly. So they basically... And I feel like they did a bit too much. They basically go to this tournament, call her...
I feel like they are retelling it with very much vim, whereas, like, it wasn't that deep. You basically called to see if
I hope so. Yeah, they called, she picked up, and then they, like, took her in for questioning. So on the phone, they see that their relationship starts off with Michelle playing a nurturing figure towards him. She's really trying to keep him alive. She's encouraging him to get help, talking to him about different therapists. But then it becomes malicious and mean, and that's when she starts encouraging him to die by suicide.
Yeah.
And they even discuss the gasoline pump together, so that they even decide, like, this is the method in which she's going to do it.
And you know what, this is so weird as well, yeah? It's that, like, sometimes people make suicide pacts and they both decide, okay, cool, we're going to do this on this day, and this
That's
is how
what
we're
I was
going to do
thinking.
it, and we're going to whatever. You literally are just, like, encouraging him and, like, taunting him. And we know from the videos that he made that he had his struggles with his mental health, but he was hopeful and he really was trying to get better and do everything in his power to kind of be better. And you could, like, his future was so bright. Like, there was so much potential there. And then this witch comes and starts chatting shit.
Yeah, it was crazy. So, in Feb 2015, a grand jury decides to indict Michelle Carter. And Michelle pleads not guilty and she's released on bond.
One thing I wanted to say just before that, there's a talking head, I don't know his name, I just remember it was one of the guys, and he basically was just saying how, you know, like, we can all probably agree that this is wrong, what she's done, but they had to decide if it was morally wrong or also criminally wrong. And that's
I was just about to say that.
Oh, we can say that? Okay, go ahead.
It's fine. No, say it.
Yeah, so then that's when it's kind of like, okay, like, two things.
What is, yeah,
two things are true here.
True. Yeah. Personally, for me, I mean, obviously, let's discuss this at the end. But yeah. So the story blows up and Michelle is torn to shreds on social media, basically. Like, people are calling her, like, demon, this, that, the third. And basically, when Michelle takes a stand, she waives her right to a jury, which on her part, so one talking head says this is actually really a smart move on her part
100%.
because it makes sure that she's being judged solely on law and legal standing and not emotion, because jurors will judge on emotion. 100%. So, yeah.
But I didn't know. So can anyone just decide they don't want a jury trial?
Because
then wouldn't more people just decide they don't want one?
No, because some people feel like juries can be more sympathetic. Like, don't forget, especially in American courts, it's all about, like, it's like a movie. It's all about what you can sell to the public. It's nothing to do with reality. So you could be an axe murderer, but if your judge can flipping sell it that, like, you were abused and this was the only way, like, you could, like, whatever, you were ever going to turn out,
never
then
do it again.
Yeah, then you have a jury that is sympathetic to you, all these stupid jurors that fall in love with, like, hardened criminals. So it depends. It can work in your favor. Like, it's actually funny that a lot of people do not waive their right to jury and they actually go to trial. But I do think there's some cases where you have to have a jury. So the prosecution sells the case as Michelle wanting Conrad to die so she could get attention as the grieving girlfriend. And this is another bit of the documentary that I feel like goes on and on and on. Like, they basically keep talking about the case. We keep seeing people take the witness stand and it was too much.
Like, we've heard, what happened?
I literally just kept pressing, like, fast forward. So the defense's case was essentially that Michelle's actions were repugnant, but she didn't kill him. So we see the court trial and we learn that Michelle herself had mental health issues, which I could have told you for free.
Yeah.
And she'd also been placed in a mental health facility at one point. So she had, like, depression, anorexia, and I think there's one other thing I can't remember. And then Michelle also had told Conrad to write that letter to her before he died so she could, they say that so that she could play the part of the grieving widow.
And then also this means that she really, really, really intended for him to die, because it's like, listen,
yeah,
before you pass, I need you to write this letter so that I can get it. So it's like, in her mind, there is no doubt that he's no longer going to be alive, and she's okay with that.
Yeah. And she makes him make his last tweet to her, which is so, like, fucking millennial. Like, make sure your last tweet's about me. Like, it's so funny because I remember, like, after Corey Monteith died, I kept going on his Twitter. Like, I just kept going. I don't know why. Like, I just kept going and, like, just seeing, like, this is so crazy. Like, he tweeted this tweet and then he died. Like, I'm sure he didn't die immediately after, but as he was sending that tweet, he didn't realise those were his last moments on Earth.
I feel like that, well, maybe he did. But I feel like that's the thing with social media, that, like, it's just so, I don't know, it's like it kind of immortalizes everyone.
Yeah.
But then it's also so strange because, like, you don't know when your last tweet is going to be your last tweet. Like, you don't know when your last Insta post is going to be your last
It's
post.
weird, though, like, when I look at people who have died, their last message, like, their last tweets or Insta posts are always so, like, eerie, like, almost, like, not foreboding, but it's just, like, I don't know, like, I was on Naya Rivera's.
I feel like it could be anyway. So if I say, oh, can't wait to have plantain and egg tomorrow, yeah, and then I die, it's gonna be like, rah, like, she's never gonna have that plantain and egg.
No, it's not that.
Do you know what I
because
mean?
it's
Like-
not. It's not that, because if you went on my Insta after I died, you wouldn't be thinking, "Whoa, eerie." It's just like, oh, this girl's
bitch.
called herself a raggedy bitch.
That's what I'm saying. Like literally, if I died now, like my Insta, there would be nothing. They'd be like, okay, well,
No, because wait, hold on. I'm gonna. Oh shit. I wanted to. So, okay, I was on Naya Rivera's Instagram like page yesterday, like last night. I don't know why I just remembered her. And her last post is like this post of her and her son. And I'll post it on Instagram so you guys can see like what I'm talking about. But it's like her and her son. And then like she's kissing him. And then there's like the son. It's clear that the son is like hitting them or whatever. And I'm just trying to like read out what she says.
I think I remember that picture.
Wow. Yeah, she literally said just the two of us. And it's so like...
She says what?
What? It says just the two of us.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's so eerie because obviously, like, we all know that she died, like, with her son, like, with her, not she didn't die with her son, but she died, like, assumingly trying to save her son from, like, drowning, and it was just the two of them in the, like, boat, and it was such a sunny day. Like, it's very eerie. Like, it's very eerie. Like, if it had been her in the club, I wouldn't have said that, but it's like, whoa.
Because it's wholesome. I don't know. I just think it's always going to be a bit weird because it's like you were so full of life here and you didn't know what was going to happen kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just always
so
a bit
crazy.
Weird. Whereas like before people would die and then you just look at old pictures of them from ages ago. Like, whereas with this, it's like literally I can see that 88 weeks ago you posted this.
Yeah. So, she also basically, we learned that she did a dry run with her friends. They call it a dry run, testing like the reaction she would get from trauma. So she said to her friends,
when she said that she told them he had died before, is that
or run away.
Right, okay. She's so weird.
And then they were all like, oh my gosh. And then 2 days after, like, he died. And the prosecution basically says that she did this to see what attention she would garner. So one of the talking heads says,
the prosecution calls a number of Michelle's acquaintances, and they describe how they never considered her a friend. It would seem pretty difficult to be in a position of hearing people that you believe was your friend testifying to the opposite, but Michelle just continues to stare at the witness stand blankly.
So basically they're saying she had no emotional reaction.
Because they say this with trials, and I'm like, I'm not going to lie, you're sitting there for ages, it's a bit boring, people are chatting
You're
shit.
hungry,
you're tired, you literally slept in a cell.
I just don't care.
I'm not gonna, how am I supposed to look? Like, what is the appropriate look that I'm supposed to give?
I cannot cry and throw myself on the ground over everything.
That's what I'm saying. And if she's crying, it's going to be like, oh, she tried to garner sympathy from the judge. Like, what is she, I don't support this bitch, yeah? But like, what is she supposed to do? What is she supposed to do? How do you look adequately upset or forlorn or distressed? Like, what is it? Like, what are you meant to look like?
You can't win with this shit.
You can't win, man. Nobody wins with the family feuds.
So one of the most explosive pieces of evidence was when Michelle's friend read a text from Michelle that said,
Sam, his death was my fault. Like, honestly, I could have stopped him. I was on the phone and he got out of the car because it was working and he got scared and I fucking told him to get back in, Sam.
Like, first of all, why the fuck would you tell anybody this ever? This just goes to show this girl is, like, not altogether with it, and she's a kid. Because it's something fam, the Russians couldn't get that shit out of me.
She literally had the wherewithal to tell him that over the phone and not via text, yeah? Only to go and then text somebody else and say, oh, yeah, I made him get back into the car.
Yeah. I think you and I are going to disagree on how we feel about this, but I will, yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah, so the star witness for the defense is Dr. Breggin, and they introduce evidence to show how much Michelle tried to help Conrad. However, he says that the antidepressant Michelle started during the course of her relationship affects her frontal lobe and decision-making. And I've heard a lot about how certain medications can cause, like, suicidal thoughts or anti-social thoughts as well. And basically, Michelle has involuntary intoxication from medication that made her feel like what she was doing was, in fact, helping Conrad, and she was doing the right thing because that's what he wanted. So eventually,
this guy's a quack, first of all.
I don't think so.
He's a fucking quack. He is quackity quack.
So we get to the verdict.
No, can we go back? Can we go back? Can we rewind?
Okay,
yeah?
go back to him.
Back to this fucking quack, yeah? So basically, he's saying, like, you know, she in her mind, she feels like he's helping him go to heaven, yeah? And this whole, like, involuntary intoxication term is... Everyone's like... Because even the prosecutor's like, okay, so here's this medical journal. Now, please, can you demonstrate and show me where it says this phrase, like, what is this medical term that you speak of, yeah? And he was like, no. Actually, it's not a psychiatric term. It's a legal term. And it's like, okay, but are you a lawyer or are you a doctor? Because you came here to testify to her state of mind medically, yeah? And you're coming to just chat shit. Just chatting shit anyhow, using words. And we're all just supposed to believe that this is...
Anyways, we'll get into it. But I don't stand with you on that one. So basically, she is... the word has escaped me.
It took 3 days to get the verdict.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And she's... There's a word you use when the judge gives you...
Huh?
Sentenced. There's a word you use when the judge... Oh, I've forgotten it. Never mind. I'll just say... Like when he decides on... No. Yeah. No. Okay. Doesn't matter. Okay. I'll just say, yeah. So eventually the verdict is in and Michelle is convicted. That's the word. Of involuntary manslaughter. And it's strange because basically her conviction is solely based on her telling Conrad to get back into the truck. So it's not the text, it's not the taunting, it's nothing like that. It's just her telling him to get into the truck. And that's what leads to it. So she's sentenced to 15 months, of which she serves 12 months and is on probation until August 2022. So she's actually released. She's 24 years old. She's out of prison. I tried to find her on all social media. She does not exist. I hope she's moved somewhere else and changed her name. But yeah.
She probably has.
She'll be on probation until 2022. And I think... we're at the end of the documentary here, but one of the talking heads really sums this up perfectly, and she says,
there were no winners. Conrad is dead and Michelle went to jail, and they both just badly needed help.
And I honestly feel like my whole opinion on this, and also sidebar, his mum goes on to like try to put in this law which means that if you know that somebody is about to die by suicide and you don't do anything about it, you can be like prosecuted. But personally for me, this documentary was hard to watch because either way you slice and dice it, I don't think Michelle was well. Like even outside of all the stuff we learned about her mental health issues and stuff like that, I think she was deeply disturbed. And it's easy to sit back and say like, oh, like this girl's crazy, but certain things manifest in crazy ways for different people. Like, I might be like Billy No Mates and I'll just survive through life being Billy No Mates. But wrongly or rightly, for some people, that manifests in a whole crazy way. Because one of the arguments in this documentary was like she didn't really have any good friends. She always latched. And there was obviously something there because everybody could attest to the fact that like she did not know boundaries. She was always latching on. Like if people didn't text her back quickly, she was like double, triple texting them, and she needed the attention. And for some of us, that might be a basic thing, like, oh, like I'm an attention whore, you know, but I'm not gonna like ask somebody to like die by suicide so that I can have attention. But
there's definitely levels to the shit.
Yeah, and I feel like unfortunately Michelle was just really, really unwell. Like, and these two were like, I don't want to say star-crossed lovers, but like they never should have been together, basically. Like, there was a fault in their stars.
Okay. I think it was the worst combination of people. And I don't disagree that Michelle is ill, like 100%. Like no one's saying that she, you know, well, she's definitely unwell, yeah. I think the thing with the doctor is that, like, it's one thing saying that she was intoxicated by her medication. That's what made her do this. It's a separate thing to say that she was unwell. Like, she's unwell and that's why she was on the medication. Do you get what I mean? It's like
Yeah. Oh, no, I was not saying it in response to the doctor. I was just saying it was difficult to watch because I feel like she was very I don't want to use the word demonized because I can understand why she was, but it seems like everybody in the documentary like treated her as if she was this like crazy, I don't want to say crazy,
No,
but
I know what you mean.
like this
Unhinged
yeah,
individual.
like this hardened criminal. Meanwhile, and another thing that made it really difficult was she was actually legally a child when this stuff happened. Like, she was 17.
I think
So
that because you know who's saying the whole case hinged on the fact that she told him to get back into the truck, yeah? I feel like up until that point, everything was, you know, she's not in her right mind, or she's not whatever, yeah? And she said this to him because he came out of the truck and was like, yeah, it's working, I don't want to do this anymore. And she could have been like, oh, do you know what, like, let's stop, or no, stop it, or like it's scary, or it becomes all too real. But she used that moment to be like, no, get back inside the truck, knowing what the consequences were going to be. Do you get what I mean?
but
At which
understand what you're saying,
stage
but you're
you've made a conscious decision to be like, no, go back into an environment that's going to end your life.
But I still don't understand why that got her
Because it proves like motive. It proves like that she intended for that to happen. Because even beforehand, she could have
but
been
either
like,
way, she didn't physically put him in the car. So
of
you
course
just
she didn't
told someone to do
Of course
something.
she didn't physically put him in the car. We know
Yeah,
that.
so
Yeah. But it's
I don't understand legally how that was a crime, because she just told him to do something.
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But to me, it just seems like it's like, okay, well, you actually like, if not for you, he wouldn't have gone back into the car. I understand she didn't hold a gun to his head or push him back in there, yeah? But of his own volition, he left the car. And then the only reason he went back in, by your own admission, is because you told him to go back in there.
I get what you're saying, but I looked at it a different way. I looked at it from the way of, this is a guy who they provided evidence to show that throughout the course of his relationship with her, he'd kind of said he wanted to die by suicide, and he'd had suicidal ideations and thoughts, and she'd always supported him through this. So her not being of sound mind, or possibly I also think it's a possible chance that she just fucking snapped and was tired of this, like, which again just shows that she wasn't the right person to be in a relationship with him. Neither of them should have been in a relationship. Or whatever they were doing, they shouldn't have been so emotionally dependent on each other. I think that at that point she was just like, you've been talking about this thing that you want to do since. You're at the point, like, do it if this is what's going to make you happy.
But that's the thing. I don't think it was that, you know, because I feel like he was like, oh, fuck it, do it then. And then she would have aired him. It would have been the end. She wouldn't be on the phone to him like the whole time.
But you're talking about that from your standing of not having all the mental health issues she has. And that's what I mean.
No, listen, I hear you. I get it. And bottom line, it's a sad situation either way, yeah?
Yeah.
But I just think that it's just wild. Like, if that was my child, yeah, it just seems as though, like you said, like, if he hadn't met Michelle, then we can't say that this wouldn't have happened. But, like, it wouldn't have happened like this. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because even from the videos, that's what makes it so sad. Because it's like, you can see him trying to do better, trying to be better. And even him coming out of the car, it's like, rah, like, I was going to do this and now I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So if it had been a different person, or maybe if Michelle had been in a better mind frame, then it would have been like, hey, do you know what? That's it. Like, get out of the car, stop it. Like, we don't have to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's unfortunate, but I just think these were two people who never should have even like interacted with each other, because they weren't good for each other at all. That is literally just how I feel about the whole thing. Like, as much as what she did was wrong, I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't wrong or anything like that. I also just feel like she's like, I don't know if she's doing better now or whatever, but she was a very unwell kid as well. Like, fam, do you know how many times, like, when I was a kid, like, if I got into trouble, like, I'll say, like, oh yeah, like, I'm going to go, like, obviously at the time we used to say this, like, oh, I'm going to go like kill myself, or even obviously not the exact same thing, but packing your bags to run away, and then you make it to like literally. So I think when you're a kid, you don't understand the gravity of some of the things you're doing. And
I think, how old is she? She was like 17.
Yeah, she was 17. But do you think you're still the same person today as you were when you were 17?
No, I'm not saying that she's the same person. I'm just saying that at 17, you being 17 and you trying to run away at age 10 is two completely different mind frames. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that the mental health issue is not important, but I'm saying at 17, like, you have some sort of semblance of like right and wrong, what's good, what's bad. Like, yes, you're a child by definition, but like, you people are going to uni at fucking 17 or 18 or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're grown enough that you're aware of right and wrong. Like, it's not like, oh, this defenseless 17-year-old who told this guy
I don't know, I just think it's it's tough to watch because I just see her as being like, I don't, obviously she's not a victim, but I see her as being someone who isn't well and didn't get the help she needed. And then this terrible thing happened to both of them. Like, I think, like, obviously Conrad is the one that unfortunately lost his life and passed away and stuff like that. But then she will always have to live with the fact that she's the one that pushed him to do that, unless she's like a psychopath and doesn't even care.
Exactly, which is possibility.
Yeah, I don't think it's that, but I don't know. I don't know the babe, but I'm just speaking on just watching it. If all the stuff they say about like her mental health and if her coming across as needy as she does, then there's something deep rooted there. And
one thing I will agree with is that I do feel like the documentary was 100% skewed, which I get. Like, maybe then if Michelle's family don't like it, they should make their own documentary. But there was no one really on Michelle's side except for this stupid quack doctor and also like her lawyer.
There was one talking head that was
there's one who's trying to be a bit impartial, but it wasn't. But then again, as a documentary who's about the victim, they're not going to come and now say, oh, actually maybe she was. That's not the aim of the documentary.
And I think that's what I was looking for in this documentary, because the documentary is called like Michelle Carter, Michelle Carter, Love, Text and Death. Like, so I was watching it just thinking I was going to learn about the story of the case.
Yeah, I get what you mean, because it's not even, his name is not even in the title. Yeah, I just think
exactly.
You think it'd be coming from Michelle's point of view, and then you'd get an unbiased view. It's kind of like, hey, well, this
that's
side,
what I
this
was
side.
expecting. I was just expecting it.
I just think that now his name is
view.
not even in the thing.
Exactly.
And it's not even like there's no name in it. Her name is in it.
Name is in it. So that's why when they spent the first like 20 minutes talking about his life, I was like, bro, like, are we talking about the case?
It seems like a the whole like clapping for the NHS at 8:00. Like, it just seems very much like, okay, we should do this because he's a victim. Let's just chuck this in there so no one can chat shit.
Yeah.
And
also, like, I feel like with Michelle's issues, it would have been good for them to, if it was unbiased, they also would have explored her, like,
and also the time that she spent when she went away. Well, not away.
Exactly.
When she went to
the facility.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what I mean. And it's a different thing if these were two adults or an adult and a child. Then fine, like, fuck that adult. Like, you did this shit, guilty as fuck. But these are two kids,
two troubled teens.
Two troubled kids. Like, let's be unbiased about it. So yeah, that was my take on the documentary. I know some of you are gonna hate me because, but that's just how I felt. And this is not to say I condone what she did or I think what she did was right. I just think they were two unwell kids who should not have been interacting at all.
Yeah, well, I think that she caused his death. So now it's time for...
The real crime, I think, was the beard.
Our segment where we focus on something during the documentary that may not be criminal, but we definitely consider to be a crime. Have you got one? I've got one. Don't you worry. Okay. So the day that Comrades passed away, in that morning they went to the beach on a walk. And I just want to say this beach was criminal. It was a beach by definition, but it wasn't really a beach. All I saw was some stones and some rocks and some shit water. And it just was not... It was giving UK beach vibes. And I said, surely this is not the beach. But it was
surely not. I think if I had to pick one, it'd be the accent. Like, what is that accent? I'll have to Google it and see if they're close to Canada.
Canada. They do speak weird. No, it's not there. Where is it? What accent is it that's really weird in America? Baltimore. Baltimore is the one.
Yeah, Baltimore has like a weird, it's almost like an Irish.
That weird.
Yeah.
There was someone on Love and Hip Hop from Baltimore. What's her name? It's Snoop. And she was like, Snoop. That's how she would say it.
Yeah, they do have a weird accent in Baltimore.
Yeah, they do.
But guys, I guess, it's a decent documentary to watch. It's an interesting case. I would say watch it, but read up more on the case because, again, it wasn't massively impartial. And, like, I feel like the life stories and how things happened took a lot more of the documentary than the case. And this case itself is very interesting because it's groundbreaking. It sets a lot of precedent and everything. So the case itself is a good case to like read up on.
It seems like the kind of case that they would do on How to Get Away with Murder in one of their lessons.
Yeah. But that was the documentary, guys.
Yeah.
Let us know your thoughts. It'd be really good to know other people's thoughts actually about if
what you think about Michelle. How you would have, what you would have done in terms of sentencing and stuff.
Yeah, how you feel about that and the case. Obviously, I think we can all agree like she led to his death. There's no denying that. But it'll be good to know what your feelings are about it. Like, is she just an evil bitch, or do you feel like she's like unwell and should be shown?
Or both.
Yeah.
So what are we doing next? Next, I'm so excited for this one. We're doing the Hillsong documentary. It comes out on the 24th of March, I think. And I think that's also on, where is it? Is it on Discovery?
I think it's on Discovery.
I think it is, yeah.
Sure.
So there's 3 episodes of it that all comes out on the same day. We're going to cover it over 2 episodes here. One will be that week and then one will be the week after. So there'll be 2 Hillsong episodes. For anyone unfamiliar, Hillsong is a church, like one of those mega churches, and they are doing a documentary basically about it, and I'm very excited to watch it and also to speak about it. So yeah, that's that on that. In the meantime, between time, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube on at 2girls1doc. And you can also email us 2girls1doc@gmail.com. You can send us your reviews, and we can make an episode, credits on it when we have enough or when we can be bothered. But yeah, that's everything. You're zoning out, yeah. Welcome.
Yeah, you know that thing where your eyes just focus on something and you can't move?
Yeah, same. I get that all the time.
I just had one of those.
And I can hear everything and I'm like aware, but I'm just like, I'm not ready to yet move my...
I can't move them. But yeah,
sorry,
guys,
I interrupted that.
thank you for... thank you for listening, and yeah, we'll be back next week.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Have you ever heard of Hillsong Church?
Hillsong is the celebrity church, right?
Bieber, Bono, Vanessa Hudgens, Kevin Durant.
It wasn't just this Australian startup anymore. It was Justin Bieber's church. They've had over 3 billion views on YouTube.
Hillsong changed the way that many of us saw how church could be done.
They're huge now. They're huge.
You can make a real change if you come to Hillsong.
This was going to be a place where I could call my home. But that clearly wasn't the case, and it almost took my life.
You can run on for a long time, run on for a long time.
When we talk about Carl and purity, how could you shame me when I was so young, but you did this?
It was the most toxic thing I ever had to deal with.
Hey, girl. Hi. Sooner or later, God will cut you down.
The beliefs that they put in you go deep. They really get in your head.
This is cool church.
There is a fine line between cult and culture.
They want to spread their tentacles as far as they can.
They really do believe that they need to conquer Earth in order to make heaven on Earth, to essentially bring on the end times.
This is not a moral failure. It's a felonious criminal act.
$78 million in revenue, tax-free.
Manipulation, religious trauma,
Systemic cover-up.
Tremendous power.
everything in your life is Hillsong.
This is not what I thought it was.
Sooner or later, God will cut you down.